Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Strege, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did.
Okay, Dave, that's it. Screw you and your college flunkies. I've had enough of this from you and from everyone else. I know what you guys are trying to do. Break me down, drive me out of the force. Well, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a lame prank like this to get Curtis Mooney to throw in his badge, so fuck you. Over.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur, and I have another episode of What's in My Room. And I'm going to start with titles that start with the letter V. So let's get started here. So the first couple of films here are a double feature that were put out by First Look Studios. The first one is Vampire Clan, and the second one is Ring of Darkness. So, a true story, Vampire Clan, and Adrienne Barbeau and Ryan star in Once You're in, the Terror Begins. So, there's that one. Next, I have a release of Peter Baestorff films from Jan Chaos's DIY Productions. And it's got 3 Brazilian short films by the man. I believe Varios do Sexo Sagranto, which means Bloody Orgy o Rama. And 2000 Anospera Iso. And Fragmentos de uma Vida, I believe. So this is, and I also have the Bolhorgia Productions copy of the film Varios de Sexo. My only gripe with this is disc 1 is also disc 2. So I am actually glad that I actually did pick up Varios de Sexo Sagranto from my French-Canadian friend, because Bolhorgia fucked up. He does his own distribution. Gershus Gudner is in charge of Bolhorgia Productions, and he mistook disc 1 for disc 2 in my copy from him, and the first batch that I got from him was stolen from me anyways. So because it came a long way from Brazil. And I ended up having to wait for him to send me some more copies of some films that I had bought from him. So, but in any case, next I have Vampirella, and that is directed by Jim Wynorski, the legendary Jim Wynorski. And it says on here, thirsty for justice, so settle for blood. Starring Talisa Soto and Roger Daltrey. So that's distributed by New Concord. Next, I have Varsity Blues, directed by Brian Robbins, put out by Paramount Home Video, starring James Van Der Beek and John Voight. I believe that's one of the football films that I actually had, the sports comedies, so to speak. Next, I have Van Wilder, put out by Artisan Entertainment, and that's directed by Walt Becker. I really liked Van Wilder. It's got Ryan Reynolds and Tara Reid. This is kind of one of those frat films, frat comedies. Next, I have Van Wilder, The Rise of Taj, the sequel to Van Wilder, and this one is directed by Mort Nathan, and it stars the Indian guy who ended up taking over the reign of Van Wilder. Another frat boy movie. Next, I have Vacancy, which is directed by Nimrod Antel. Interesting name. This was put out by Screen Gems. It's Psycho meets Saw. You'll be squirming in your seat. Starring Luke Wilson and Kate Beckinsale. Next, I have a movie based on a book series, a teenage book series. Vampire Academy, directed by Mark Waters. It's based on the best-selling novel by Rochelle Mead. From Mark Waters, the director of Mean Girls, and Daniel Waters, the writer of Heathers. Interesting, to say the least. Next, I have John Carpenter's Vampires, and that's a super bit. Super bits were put out by Columbia Pictures. Looks like Columbia Pictures and TriStar Home Entertainment put together. This film was filmed in 1998, possibly? Yeah. But there we have John Carpenter's Vampires. I'd love to rewatch that. Next, I have Vampires Lesbos. Now, I know I've got 2 copies of this around. This is the Synapse Films and Reclusive Pictures copy of Jess Franco's Vampires Lesbos. This is a film from 1970. It's Jess Franco's masterpiece of erotic cinema. Countess Nadine Carodi, a vampire with an insatiable thirst for female blood, lures women to her isolated island to love, then kill her victims. Linda Westinghouse comes to the island and falls under the vampire's seductive spell, only to find a living nightmare she may never be able to escape. A tripped-out mixture of nudity, softcore lesbianism, vampires, outrageous sex, and a world-famous soundtrack. Vampiros Lesbos is now available for the first time ever on home video in the United States, recently resurfacing as a cult classic after almost 30 years. Vampiros Lesbos has restarted a dance-crazed phenomenon across the globe with its psychedelic music score. So be sure to watch Vampiros Lesbos today, as Countess Carodi just might suck you dry. So there we have Vampires Lesbos. Next I have a double feature from Camp Motion Pictures. The first one is Vampire's Embrace. That's from 1991, and it's directed by Glenn Andreev. And then Through Dead Eyes, directed by Robert Brody in 1994. So there we have that double feature. Next I have another frat boy, frat girl type movie, except this time it's a vampire comedy called Vamp You. Tagline says, sorority girls suck. It's got Julie Gonzalo, Adam Johnson, Alexis Knapp, and Gary Cole starring in it. Looks kind of funky. Next I have Vampires. This is Blue Underground's copy, a film by Jose Ramon Lerez. And it's a film from 1974, and they share the pleasures of the flesh and unleashed the horrors of the grave, screamed the ads. The beautiful Marianne Morris and stunning Playboy centerfold Anolka star as bisexual seductresses who roam the English countryside with an insatiable lust for the blood of mortals, as well as the succulent bodies of each other. Director Jose Ramon Lerez packs this landmark adult hit with chilling atmosphere, shocking bloodshed, and some of the most torrid sexuality of any vampire movie in horror history. Also known as Daughters of Dracula, this controversial cult classic was butchered repeatedly by censors around the world. Blue Underground is proud to present Vampires loaded with exclusive new extras and featuring a stunning new transfer that restores all of the controversial gore footage missing from any previous version. This is the definitive edition of Vampires with a Y. Next I have Sean Weathers presents Vault of Terror. 4 nihilistic terrors of dread and horror. Come on in, death is waiting for you. So this is a film from Full Circle Filmworks, which is evidently Sean Weathers' distribution company. Maniac 2, Driller Killer, Night of the Living Dead, and A Good Samaritan in New York City. Evidently, are on this particular release. So apparently, I guess I have another copy of Night of the Living Dead on here. Next, I have one of the oldest vampire films. It's called Vampire. This is from the Criterion Collection. It's a film by Carl Theodor Dreyer. And it's a film from 1932 with Vampire, Danish filmmaker Carl Theodor Dreyer's brilliance of achieving mesmerizing atmosphere and austere, profoundly unsettling imagery. The Passion of Joan of Arc and Day of Wrath was for once applied to the horror genre. Yet the result, concerning an occult student assailed by various supernatural haunts and local evildoers in a village outside of Paris, is nearly unclassifiable. A host of stunning camera and editing tricks and densely layered sounds, creating a mood of dreamlike terror, with its roiling fogs, ominous skits, and foreboding echoes. Vampire is one of cinema's great nightmares. So this is the original German version in a new high definition digital transfer from the 1998 restoration by Martin Korver and the Cineteca de Bologna. Newly created alternate version with the English text, audio commentary featuring film scholar Tony Raines, new and improved English subtitle translation. So, there I have Vampire. That's a thick copy, don't you think? Okay, so this is an all-region double feature of two John Carpenter films on Blu-ray. So the first is Vampires, and the second is Ghosts of Mars. So that's kind of interesting. That is from Columbia Pictures, and that's a weird combination of the two. So yeah. Next, I have from Legless Corpse Films a copy of Volumes of Blood. This is the first one, and it's put together by directors Jacob Belinsky, Nathan Thomas Milner, John Kenneth Muir, P.J. Starks, and Lee Vervoort. So, there's Volumes of Blood. Next, I have a very cool film, and this was directed by Luc Besson. It's Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets, starring Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne, something like that. Delevingne, maybe. But this is the Blu-ray, DVD, digital HD copy. Really a beautiful film, based on some French comics from back in the day that evidently never caught on, but caught on somewhere. Next, I have Vampire Killers. This is supposedly a vampire comedy. It says, after Twilight, the real party starts. So this one is directed by Phil Clayton. Should be interesting to check out. Next, I have Valentine, the Dark Avenger. Hold on. Valentine, the Dark Avenger. So this is directed by, let's see, whenever this is actually, this is an Indonesian action film, anti-superhero kind of thing. So let's see, where's the director? That's the writer. Co-director, post-producer, line producer. Okay, director is Agus Pestel. And from the ashes a hero rises. The film stars Estelle Linden, Matthew Settle, Ari Dajan, Indra Barowo, Armand Afandi, Nabila Putri, Fendi Radana, Joshua Pandalaki, Lily SP, Leroy Usman, Marcel Domitz, Mega Cara Fonsa, Sasky IC Wara, and Aliza Putri. All names that I cannot entirely pronounce. Oh, damn it. Next, I have a copy of the second volumes of Blood on Blu-ray. And this one was put out by directors Sean Blevins, John William Holt, John Maynard, Nathan Thomas Milner, Justin M. Seaman, and James Treacle. But it also involves P.J. Starks behind it somewhat too. So there we have Volumes of Blood, horror stories. Next I have Vampire Resurrection. And this was put out by Shadow Entertainment, which is a part of Full Moon Entertainment. And it's directed by Denise Duff. And what's interesting here is that the main theme is by Midnight Syndicate, and the star of this vampire film is the star of Full Moon's Subspecies series. It's a Wenger Duff Productions. Denise Duff. James Horan, Gillian McWhirter, Julie Michaels, Frank Brian Browick, Marilyn O'Connor, John Meese, and Jeffrey Lewis all star in this film. So I thought it was an interesting spin-off film. Next I have the sequel to John Carpenter's Vampires, called Vampires Los Muertos, and it's executively produced by John Carpenter, but it's directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. So we've got John Bon Jovi, Christian De La Fuente, Arlie Jover, Darius McCrary, and Natasha Wagner starring in this particular film. So, looking forward to rewatching those. Next I have Violence and Flesh. This is directed by legendary Brazilian erotic filmmaker Alfredo Sternheim. Violence and Flesh. So, 3 violent criminals make a break from prison and dig up some stolen cash. After setting their getaway car on fire, they plunge into the jungle north of Rio, stumbling upon a private beach home owned by a young lesbian couple. Enter the lovely Jessie, Helena Ramos, and her friend Daniela Nita Ribeiro, who have traveled to the beach home to meet their friends for a relaxing weekend in the sun. Little do they know what awaits them. All hell breaks loose as the criminal invaders play twisted, perverse games of sex with a house full of innocent women. One by one, the hapless ladies are subjected to sexual anarchy, forced to strip and engage in lesbian acts. Each woman must obey the thugs or face death. But these beautiful ladies have a plan of their own and are about to strike back. Will they survive their descent into violence and flesh? So there we have that particular film. Alrighty, next I have Vampire Cop, directed by Donald Farmer. Apparently, this is the director's cut of it, and it's put out by SRS Cinema. Next, I have BBC's little miniseries called Viking War. Last Battle of the Vikings. Experienced the earth-shattering battle for control of the fledgling Scottish nation when 900 Norwegian Vikings stormed into Scotland in 1263, terrorizing and colonizing as they went. 500 Scottish knights were tasked with ending the calamitous events that were unfolding. Professor John Henderson sheds new light on the incredible story of the final tumultuous days of the Vikings and reveals the lasting legacy of the brutal men that crossed the North Sea to ravage Scotland. So this might actually be a documentary. So next I have Vigilante Diaries. It's a film directed by Christian Sesma, put out by Anchor Bay Entertainment, Cinetel Films, Oscar Gold Productions, Saskari Productions, and Ton of Hats, with Velalonga Productions. This film actually came out around the same time as Suicide Squad, DC's Suicide Squad. So I figure it's a film in the likeness of it. Okay, so here is the other copy of Pyros Lesbos that I have. And this is put out by Image Entertainment. This says it's from 1971. And it says, on a remote island, beautiful bloodsucker Countess Nadine, scream siren, Soldad Miranda, lures unwary victims with her seductive nightclub act and sets her sights on silky blonde Linda, Eva Stromberg, initiating her into the realm of love beyond the grave. After their first carnal encounter, Linda wanders the beach in a daze and falls under the care of Dr. Seward, played by Dennis Price, who's intent on using Nadine to become a vampire himself, complete with wild visuals, girl-on-girl seductions, and one of the greatest pop lounge scores to ever assault listeners' ears. This cult classic from Maverick director Jess Franco, Venus and Furs, The Awful Dr. Orloff, is now available in a beautifully restored, digitally remastered edition to keep you under its tantalizing spell. So there we have Vampiros Lesbos, a different cover, so to speak. Next I have a Blu-ray that has a V title on it, but it also has a different film, so it's a double feature Blu-ray. It's the first film on here is called Vidar the Vampire, and the second one on here is called Zombieology. In a desperate attempt to break free of his boring life, lonely bachelor and farmer Vidar Har prays to the Lord to grant him a life without boundaries. Instead, he wakes up as the Prince of Darkness. Now he must adjust to life as a vampire. When a monster from a popular animated show appears and starts a zombie outbreak, it's up to eccentric duo Lung and Chi Yong to stand up and fight the horde of the recently deceased and save their friends from all around chaos. Zombieology. Next I have Voodoo Dawn, and this is directed by Andre Sekula from Cutting Edge Entertainment in association with Bridge Pictures, and this is also put out by Platinum Disc Corporation, which was a distribution company out in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And they put out, they're out of business now, but they used to put them out on these thin plastic things. I've got another one or two of their films that were out there, but I figure this is all I will talk about for today on my on video number 1 in my V collection. So thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed my showing you some of the films that are in this V collection, in the title of V in my collection. So thank you. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. I'll probably have some more films to show you fairly soon from the title V. Thank you so much. I will have some more exciting films to share with you from my collection in each letter, not necessarily in order. Just to fuck with you. In any case, thank you so much. Enjoy.
You were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best, see?